As you know, President Trump is renovating the East Wing of the White House. He's putting in a ballroom right now. I'll get to the reasons why that ballroom is necessary and why it's a good thing, and how many previous presidents and administrations before the Trump 47 administration contemplated this and debated and discussed doing it. And I'll also talk about how this is going to benefit presidencies for decades to come. I'm going to talk about all of that because that's the last thing people in the corporate legacy media or the Democrats who they control or control them are interested in talking about. They don't talk about whether it's a good idea to fix the ballroom and put it into the renovated East Wing at all. That's the last thing they want to talk about. All they want to talk about is rage. Rage at Donald Trump. Well, here's the chief rager, Hakeem Jeffries, who's making a promise to the American people.
Donald Trump is once again preparing to fly out of the country. The East Wing of the White House is being demolished so that Donald Trump can construct a ballroom where he will be celebrated like a king. And at the same time, Trump is trying to rob taxpayers of $230 million to continue to line his pockets. And yet Republicans have zero interest, none, in addressing the healthcare crisis that they've created, just devastating people all across the country.
Yeah, he seems serious about that, doesn't he? There's a little bit more from Hakeem here about the renovations. I love, he's demolishing the East Wing. No, he's not demolishing the East Wing. He's renovating the East Wing. That's how renovations go. Do you not watch HGTV? This is what happens with a renovation. You do the demo part first. A little bit more. Hakeem, go ahead. What else is on your mind, Hakeem?
Any executive authority. And more likely, this is part of what Donald Trump has been doing since day one of his presidency, running the largest pay-to-play scheme in the history of the country, and probably soliciting donations from people who've got business before the United States government. And all of this is going to have to be investigated. It will. All of this will have to be uncovered. It will. And these people are going to be held accountable, no matter how long it takes. That's going to be the reality of the situation. And that's our warning to all of these people participating in this scheming to manipulate taxpayer dollars and, of course, to destroy the people's house. The White House belongs to the American people. It doesn't belong to Donald Trump.
Yeah, so they keep using these words. He's destroying, he's demolishing, he's ready to know. He's actually building and creating the White House East Wing and fixing it and making it better and improving it. More on that in a minute. What you're watching here is the formation of the Democrats' campaign to take over the House of Representatives in 2028, right? Oh, no one's holding him accountable. You need us to be in the majority so we can have hearings, we can run impeachments, we can run investigations, and we can hold them accountable, because right now the Republicans won't do it. That's going to be their message. They don't have any other ideas. It's not like they can run and say, elect us, we'll fix healthcare, because we've seen that movie before and we're living through the nightmare ending of it, right? They don't have any other things. They certainly don't have any ideas. They don't have any campaign positions at all other than Donald Trump needs to be kept in check. And that might work. That might be an effective message. And that's what you're seeing. That's why they're making such a big deal out of the renovations. They know better. The people who work in the media in Washington, D.C. certainly know better. And they're counting on the ignorance, sadly, of the American people. And when I say ignorance, I don't mean you're uneducated. I don't mean you're stupid. I just mean you don't live in D.C. You don't walk past the White House every day. You don't go there to work on a regular basis. You don't go there for events because you're a normal person. And when you see the White House, you see the iconic image of the mansion, right? And you think, oh my gosh, the East Wing, you mean the entire eastern part of the building? And the answer to your question is no. The East Wing is not part of the historic White House mansion that was designed and built by George Washington and finished up by John Adams. Here, let me show you. Again, they're counting on you not understanding this. All right, so look in the middle of this picture. Let's blow that up. All right, the middle of the picture is the White House. That's the building that was designed by George Washington Mr. L'Enfant, the person who actually laid out the map of Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, when it was created in the first Congress. The mansion is where the president's office was, where his residence is upstairs, and where many state affairs took place on a regular basis. That footprint right there. Now, if you look at the orange rooftops that go to the east and the west of the mansion, those were additions. On one side is the West Wing. You've heard of that. Aaron Sorkin wrote a TV show about it. And on the other side is the East Wing. Now, you hear about the West Wing more than any other part, because the West Wing is where the briefing room is for the press and the media. It's where the Oval Office is. Did you know the Oval Office didn't used to be oval? President Taft renovated the White House and made it an Oval Office. What? How could he do that? That's an abomination, right? The West Wing and the portico there, which is that red rooftop, that was created by Teddy Roosevelt 110 years ago because they needed to expand. We're a big country. We've grown quite a bit, and the executive branch has grown quite a bit from the John Adams administration, right? Also in the West Wing are the Roosevelt room, the cabinet room, things like that. Underneath, down in the basement, is where the office space is. Behind the West Wing, there's that little blue tarp. That's the Rose Garden. The green grass there next to the West Wing by the portico. That's the Rose Garden. It's got a marble slab on it now because Trump's renovated that as well. All right, so that's the West Wing. You hear about the West Wing all the time. You don't hear about the East Wing very much. As you go east on the White House grounds there, you got the Treasury building right next to it. That's the first big federal building right next to the White House. That tells you how important the Treasury is. But before you get to the Treasury, you've got the East Wing. Now, what happens in the East Wing? Good question. Nobody knows. It's not the most active space, to be honest with you. It's where the First Lady's office is. It's got some other spaces over there. There's a couple of, offices and things like that. You see the part where the yellow line is around there? That's where the demolition is taking place. So they're purposely showing you pictures at the ground level, showing you the demolition. And in the background, you can sort of see the mansion in the background. And I'm telling you, if you polled the American people, 80% of them would think that it's the mansion that's being renovated right now. And it's not. It's this annex building. The East Wing was built and renovated by Franklin Roosevelt for his own private swimming pool, by the way. During the Depression. Oh, you hear this a lot from Democrats in Washington, D.C. Oh, my gosh, gas prices are high and people can't afford their grocery bills, and Trump is spending all this money on a ballroom. Franklin Roosevelt, in the East Wing, the same space we're talking about, built himself a private indoor swimming pool during the Depression. And he's their hero. Get out of my face with this crap. It's all a drummed up fake controversy. And all the usual morons are playing along, like this one.
So this will also be decided. This is the part that really tickles me. It's going to be decided by some of the same Justice Department lawyers who worked with him on these past cases. So Americans, the question is, are you on board with all of this? This is like a cash grab. Yeah. And your taxes are probably going to be paying for that.
That ballroom.
Yeah, your taxes are going to get paid for the ballroom. By the way, probably your taxes should pay for the ballroom because it's an important room for state functions. I'll get to that in a minute. But that's just a lie. This is an ABC News show. She is an ABC News host on an ABC News program under the umbrella of ABC News executives. And she just told the viewing audience that your tax dollars are paying for the ballroom. And it's an absolute lie. Private money being raised to do this. Oh, and you saw Hakeem Jeffries. Well, it's pay to play. What are people going to be expecting in return for paying for this ballroom. It's funny, I don't remember any of them asking that question when Bill and Hillary Clinton literally rented out the Lincoln bedroom to the highest bidder. Not, by the way, to benefit the government for building a ballroom for dignitaries and state functions for decades to come. No, they rented out the Lincoln bedroom so that they could raise money for their own pathetic political campaign. And not one of them raised a concern about that, of course. But what I can't get over is the ignorance, if I may. Gretchen Carlson, who, by the way, say what you will about her politics. And I actually know Gretchen. I was a regular on her show like 3 Gretchen Carlsons ago when she did the midday show on Fox News Channel. And I enjoyed being on her show. Okay. But my God, Gretchen. She's deleted this by now because I corrected her last night, but she put out this picture of herself in the East Room, the historic East Room of the White House. You know, when you see a president walk down that long red carpeted corridor and walks through the gold drapes and then delivers an address to the American people, that's the East Room. That's the East Room. Okay. That's the president walking through the center of the mansion from his office and going into the East Room and addressing the American people. I did an event in the East Room. I interviewed President Trump in the first term from the East Room. Look it up. Google it. It's great. It's not a very big room. It was meant originally in the original design to handle banquets and state functions, and they use it to a certain extent right now, but for small functions. Right now at the White House, if you've got a big state dinner with a ton of people and, you know, doing the kind of thing that heads of state do when they're president of the United States, and you've got the Prime Minister of India and you've got the Queen of England or whatever, you know what they do right now at the White House? They do it in a tent. In a tent. They put out a tent, and it costs millions of dollars, by the way, for the high-end tents, and then to have all the tables and the catering and all the things that it takes to do an event inside a tent on the South Lawn, and then they have to take it down and all the labor that's involved in doing all of that. And it looks like a circus, and they do it in a tent. After the ballroom is built, think of all the money and time that they're going to save and how much more beautiful it's going to be. And, oh, by the way, you can do a state dinner, you know, in the winter in D.C. instead of just doing them in the summer in a tent. All right. So anyway, here's Gretchen Carlson in the East Room. I was in the East Room of the White House in March of 2022 to witness history when we signed into law. Was she co-president with Joe Biden? She might as well have been. She could have been the auto pen for all we know. We signed into law the Ending Forced Arbitration of Sexual Assault and Sexual Harassment Act. Oh, wow. The EFASA. No, wait. The EFASA. The EFASA. Who can forget the EFASA bill? Our lives were all changed after that one. Now that East Room doesn't exist anymore. Sad. White House demolition. You know, it is sad because that's a person telling the entire world that she is either ignorant or a liar. It is sad. The East Room, look at me. Here I am in the East Room, and now that room doesn't exist. So that's the East Room. That's the footprint of the mansion of the White House. That room is intact. That room's not being touched. That building is not being touched. It's not the East Room, Gretchen. It's the East Wing, which most people never go to or even see. They couldn't find the East Wing if they had to. Oh, and by the way, take a look at it. This is the mansion. This is the big mansion of the White House that was built in the late 18th century and has been the iconic home and the place of business for the presidents all the way back to John Adams. Washington never got to live there. He had to do his work out in New York, sadly. So you have an image of the White House now, right? That's the footprint of the White House. Now take a look at this picture. Do you know what that is? That's the White House. That's the White House in the late 1940s, after World War II, when President Truman renovated it. They had to gut the entire thing out. Everything that you see in the White House right now, not the furnishings, not the sofas and the tables and the antiques. I'm talking about the walls, the banisters, the window sills, the moldings and all that. It goes back to 1950. There is nothing extraordinary at all about, and that's the actual mansion of the White House, not the East Wing. That's the White House. And that's what Truman did. Josh Hawley was asked by Manu Raju, CNN reporter, intrepid man that he is, on Capitol Hill, about the horrific end of our country renovation of the East Wing of the White House. And Hawley handled it perfectly.
What about just uprooting this is an iconic building?
Manu, I will just say this. I made this point yesterday, that I hear all of a sudden from my liberal friends that they're very concerned about our history. Really, these are the same people who tore down every statue they could get their hands on in the last 4 years. Christopher Columbus, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt. They didn't have any concern for history then. Now all of a sudden, like, oh, the facade of the East Wing is iconic. Oh, give me a break. I mean,
Thank you. Give me the facade of the East Wing is iconic and must not be touched. Statue of George Washington, rip it down, decapitate it, and throw it into the Potomac. Oh, by the way, so this is how CNN is now covering this renovation of that. Nick, can I just remind you again what we're talking about here? That's the White House grounds, right? That's the entirety of the White House grounds. Look at the yellow square. That's what's being renovated right now and built out. That little square right there. Okay. But what you just saw is how CNN is reporting on this story. Now, it was just 2 presidencies ago, when Barack Obama was president, when there was another renovation at the White House. Now, CNN reported on that at the time. Again, it's very subtle, but you might see a slight difference in how they covered that renovation versus this renovation. Take a look.
Sounds like you're building another wing to the White House, but we appreciate you keeping your focus.
You can't even imagine, TJ. It's going to happen for the next 2 years. All of the banging, the jackhammering, the dust, the confusion, the noise of all places to do construction is happening right here, the front lawn of the White House.
It's a 4-year renovation project. Estimated cost, $376 million.
And we love every bit of it because it's Barack Obama. Oh, and get this, the best part, he's building a basketball court for himself so he can have LeBron over to shoot hoops. Isn't he just the best? You honestly don't hate these people enough. I have to say, though, on CNN, somehow, accidentally, they went off the script last night, and we did have a voice of reason. Tim Parrish laid it out.
I find it very interesting that we're having this conversation because FDR actually built the East Wing, put a pool in for himself. President Obama was a basketball player, put a basketball court in. President Nixon was a bowler and put a bowling alley. All personal things they want to do. The president is doing an addition to the People's House. It's going to be able to hold hundreds of people. Instead of cramming people in, foreign visitors and other folks that we've crammed into these rooms, we're going to have an actual ballroom that we can properly host people in the White House. And he's paying for it, and private donors are paying for it. So any correlation, he's putting his personal dollars in along with private donors.
The pool and the basketball court did not disrupt the structure of the White House. That's the first thing.
And
the second thing,
changes.
But hold on, Tim, the second thing.
Wait, I am shocked that Abby Phillip interrupted a conservative when he was making a good, sound, logical, and effective point on her show. And also, may I remind you, if I have to look at it again, let's look at it together. This renovation is not disrupting the structure or operations of the White House. The operations of the White House are in the West Wing, number one. Number two, see the building across the street from the West Wing? That's the old executive office building. That's where the staff of the White House works. That's where most people have their offices. It's very rare to have an office in the West Wing, but everything is over there. The East Wing side, and this is the furthest you can get to the East Wing side, is not part of the operations of this is not disrupting anything at the White House. I'm so tired of it. I got to say, though, one person who has made a salient point in all of this is honestly our favorite member of Congress. We can't get enough of her. She actually made this point a little while ago, but it really resonates today. Jasmine Crockett, what's the most important thing about the work going on at the White House?
The most educated demographic in this country right now is Black women. The same very people that built this country, because the last time I checked, y'all didn't say that anything was wrong with the White House. And I can promise you, it was my ancestors that built the White House.
Well, that explains why there was no ballroom. I do love this line. It was my ancestors that built. Michelle Obama used to use this as a political cudgel all the time. I wake up every day in a house that was built by slaves. My ancestors, and it's true. Enslaved Africans, owned mostly by Democrats, did do the bulk of the heavy labor on the White House. But also, I know this is politically incorrect to point out, but the other tradesmen that worked on the White House were Europeans, not Americans, by the way. No, it was immigrant European labor, my people. I'm not saying that it's equal. I'm just saying her ancestors weren't alone on the job. Are we allowed to say that? No, we're not. Not one bit. Yesterday, during an Oval Office presser, President Trump was asked about how he has lacked transparency in the details. This is the other trope you hear, that there's been no transparency. You lied to the American people. You didn't tell them the extent of this job. You didn't tell them how big it was going to be. You've been hiding this from the American people. Watch how he handles it.
I just want a quick follow-up on that question. Your response to people who say that you haven't been transparent enough about this.
I haven't been transparent?
That some of your critics feel it should
I've shown this to everybody that would listen. Third-rate reporters didn't see it because they didn't look. You're a third-rate reporter, always have been. So third-rate reporters didn't look, but anybody that asked, these pictures have been in newspapers. They've been all over the place, and we're very proud of it. It's gotten great reviews. It's gotten really great reviews. So
I do love that it's always about the reviews, but it's true. That model, look at the model on the coffee table. He has shown it to everyone. He's talked about it all the time for the last couple of months. Look at this. Look at the model. Look at what I got. The White House has put out renderings of the thing every single day. This is coming. It's going to happen. It's going to do it. I don't know what everybody's so upset about it. I mean, I've seen the renderings and I think it looks cool. Why? Why are people so concerned about the renovations of the East Wing? I think it's going to fit in perfectly. It looks good to me. And for those of you who are listening to the audio-only version of the podcast, you might want to swing over to the video and check out the 58-minute mark so you know what we're talking about. Don't believe any of the hype. Don't believe any of the lies. Listen, I will say this, the last thing about the renovation, and hopefully we won't have to talk about this fake story again, but I will tell you this. I kind of get it. To be honest, if this were a president that I hated as much as they hate Donald Trump, seeing demolition of part of the facade of the White House, even the East Wing or the West Wing, it would resonate. It would be symbolic. It would actually probably bother me and anger me. But I'll leave you with two things that you should really consider whenever you see this hysterical coverage or whenever you hear somebody on your liberal friends on your Facebook page who were posting pictures and saying, this is awful, this is terrible. Just recognize two very important things here in this entire story. Number one, all of the criticism, all of the hysteria, all of the screaming, all of the everything that you hear about this renovation is coming from people who always leave out one fundamental question with regard to this renovation and the creation of the ballroom. The one thing that they never bring up, is it a good idea? Is this actually something that is good for the country, for the executive branch of government, and for presidents moving forward. Notice that? That's the one thing they never discuss, right? And the second thing that you don't ever hear from any of them is, who does Trump think he is? I mean, after all, what does he know about renovation and buildings? You never hear that either, do you?